Behold, the divine light guides us all.
Rakata Yahweh Shah, Rakata Yahweh, Rakata Yahweh, Rakata Yahweh Shah.
Psalm 145. I will extol thee, my God, O King, and I will bless thy name forever and ever. Every day will I bless thee, and I will praise thy name forever and ever. Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised, and his greatness is unsearchable. One generation shall praise thy works to another, and shall declare thy mighty acts. I will speak of the glorious honor of thy majesty, and of thy wondrous works. And men shall speak of the might of thy terrible acts, and I will declare thy greatness. They shall abundantly utter the memory of thy great goodness, and shall sing of thy righteousness. The Lord is gracious and full of compassion, slow to anger, and of great mercy. The Lord is good to all, and his tender mercies are over all his works. All thy works shall praise thee, O Lord, and thy saints shall bless thee. They shall speak of the glory of thy kingdom, and talk of thy power, to make known to the sons of men his mighty acts, and the glorious majesty of his kingdom. Thy kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and thy dominion endureth throughout all generations. The Lord upholdeth all that fall, and raiseth up all those that be bowed down. The eyes of all wait upon thee, and thou givest them their meat in due season. Thou openest thine hand, and satisfiest the desire of every living thing. The Lord is righteous in all his ways, and holy in all his works. The Lord is nigh unto all them that call upon him, to all that call upon him in truth. He will fulfill the desire of them that fear him. He also will hear their cry, and will save them. The Lord preserveth all them that love him, but all the wicked will he destroy. My mouth shall speak the praise of the Lord, and let all flesh bless his holy name forever. Show my love for you.
Abanawa, Shabashamayim, Kodash, Haya, Shamka, Yahawa, Malakwaka, Taba'a Ratazaka, Haya, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Kawa, Haya, Bashamayim, Nathananawa, Lakum, Kal Yawam, Wasalaklanawa, Kawabwat Nawa, Kasalak Nawa, Kawabwati Nawa, Wala'a, Tabaya Nawa, Banasayawan, Abal, Haushai Nawa, Mayan, Rai Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwath, Waha Allah, Wahata Ba'arath, La Iwalamium, Aman.
Rakata Yahweh Shah, Rakata Yahweh, Rakata Yahweh, Rakata Yahweh Shah.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Kakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us younger brothers. And peace and blessings and salutations and hopefully out there pushing this word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem Shah, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopefully the believers and listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bahashem Shah. All right, and what I want to get into today, dealing with, the ways of the West, a predatory system, okay? Because the scriptures, refer, to all these heathens, their rulerships, likened unto beasts, okay? Because these heathens, they wasn't, blessed, to have the Holy Spirit, okay? And that's what that's one of the main things that separates, Israelites from these other nations is that the Lord, all right, allowed us to be possessed, okay, by his Holy Spirit, okay, which is a spirit of wisdom, spirit of order, okay, a spirit of structure, okay, and it's something that the heathen don't have, and this is why the heathen is meant to be ruled over, okay, and we're in the rulership, okay, ran by the worst heathen of all, Esau, Edom, okay, and these other heathens, are vassals, under this devil. Well, we see that the world is in a very, predatory state because it's being ran by beasts. Okay, and the top beast is Esau, Edom. Okay, the top beast of of all these heathens, and the scriptures say he's more subtle than any beast of the field. Is referring to all the heathen as beast-like. Okay, and this devil Esau, Edom, he's the worst. All right. So in this man's rulership, he prays. It's the law of the jungle, and he preys on the vulnerable. Okay, because when you go out into the wild, all right, it's kill or be killed. Okay, everybody's a plot. When you go into nature, and you go into, these animals. Okay, it's a system where everybody's scheming. Okay, you have the predators. They're just always lurking, always looking to catch somebody slipping, always looking for the vulnerable. And this is the nature of this system, okay? Because it's ran by a beast, okay? Esau, Edom, okay? And what we have to understand is that the Lord gave us over to this man for our disobedience, okay? So this is, our worst punishment, not physically, man, but spiritually and mentally, man. This captivity did a number on us, man. And this is why it's a miracle, that the Lord, you know, um, it's a miracle when you look at what the Lord has pulled us out of. Okay, you look at the planet Earth now, and we, respond to certain things and Jake behavior, and you see how Jake moving, the nigga woman, how they moving. Well, we were delivered from that. You see, we was delivered out of those enchantments. Okay, and the thing is to fight to not to slide back into it because we still here, and that's part of the fight of faith. Okay, the fight of discipline, the fight of patience is not to slide back into it because it's all around us, man. And the scriptures give us the game, all right, on how to maneuver around enemy lines, man. And to see things for what they are, have clarity on things, man. Okay, so when you read the book of Jeremiah, chapter 30, verse 12, said, "For thus saith the Lord, your wound is incurable, and your injury is beyond healing." Okay, and this is for 2/3 of our people. What we have to understand when we're dealing with 2/3, it's a people that's wounded beyond repair. We have to understand that the majority of our people that we come across are they're wounded beyond repair. There's no healing them. Okay, the Lord has given them fully over, all right, to be devoured by the beast, man. Okay, because this man he devours your spirit. Okay, he devours your morals. Okay, he devours your principles, man. Okay, and turns you into a beast like him. You see, and we was once entangled in there. That's why I say we can never, be grateful enough for the Lord bringing us out of there, man. And we're still a work in progress, man. We're still healing. We're not healed. We're healing. Okay, and the Lord allowed this truth, okay, to be a safe haven for those that are healing in the spirit of Yahweh Shema Shai. Yahweh Shai is known as a physician. Okay, so this word is healing us, man. Okay, the wounds that we've suffered, from the enemy, man, because this is a very toxic environment, man. It's a very toxic society. Okay, Jeremiah 30 and 13 said, "There is no one to plead your cause, no device, okay, to close and allow the healing of your wound, no recovery for you, man." And that's within this system. Within this system, there's nothing there's no system of recovery or restoration for our people in this system, man. The only healing comes through Yahweh Shai. Okay? Because we've been so warped, like we really been warped in this society, man. We really been fed a false reality, okay, a very synthetic way of being. Okay? This devil, he has, Western cultures on such a low frequency, man. So it's all about the flesh, it's all about self, okay? It's all about overindulgence, okay? It's all about dog eat dog, okay? It's the law of the jungle, man. Okay, if you can get away with it, you can do it. Okay, it ain't about what's right and wrong. It's about what you can get away with. Okay, and growing up in the environment, man, that does something to you. It does something to your psyche, man. Okay, I mean, you look at the West, man. Most people aren't normal, man. Okay, this is a very unnatural way. All right, that this man runs the earth, especially over here in the West. Verse 14, it says, all your lovers, your allies have forgotten you. They do not seek and long for you. Yeah, because one of our main sins as a people was following the guides of these other nations, and the lifestyle that came with following these other guys, man. Okay? It destroyed us, man. You know? And Jake had become likened unto a beast, man. That's why the scriptures speak about how, all right, a noble plant become degenerate, okay, by going after these heathens, man, or these other going after the gods of these heathens, man. That downgrades us, man. Okay, we was curious in the ways of the heathen, man. Okay, and that downgraded us, man. They put us on the beach level with these heathens, man. Okay, because Esau pushed his lie as if he's the one, that's meant to civilize the earth. Well, how can he civilize the earth when he's not civilized? Okay, the nature of an Edomite is the worst nature, and that's why after 1,000 years, that nigga gonna be eradicated, man, because he's not needed. He has the worst nature out of all the people in existence, man. This devil has the worst nature. Okay, but he constantly, parades himself as the standard of morality, man, and the standard of civilization is him. Okay, when it's the exact opposite, man. Okay, Israel, we were supposed to civilize the world with order, with law, statutes, and commandments. Okay, it said, "For I have injured you with the wound of an enemy, with the punishment of a cruel and merciless foe, because your guilt is great and your sins are glaring and innumerable." Okay, so the Lord, allowed us to be punished by a merciless foe, man. Esau, Edom. This nigga is merciless, man. Okay, this nigga is beast like. Okay, like a beast. A lion don't care about, an injured, young gazelle that can't run from it. He gonna devour his ass, man. Easy prey, And this devil, he spends a lot of time of making people easy prey. Okay, he even has a term, or economic term, called predatory capitalism, man. Okay, which we'll get into that a little bit. You see, but we've been given over, all right, to be punished by a cruel and merciless foe, man, Esau, Edom. Okay, and if the Lord, all right, if the Lord, if Yahweh Bashim Shah doesn't intervene, then there's no help. There's no recovering from it. You see, as Israelites, if we're not predestined, to be awakened, all right, and to begin to be restored through Yahweh Shah, then there's no recovering from this man's system, man. It only gets worse. That's why every generation gets worse and worse. They get more and more satanic, less and less morals, more beast-like, and it's to the point with Jake where you can barely even understand what Jake is saying. Jake damn near grunting now. These young mumbling niggas, man. Okay, you know, you got niggas going platinum, and you don't even know what this nigga is saying. Okay, you look at these the female rappers, man. That's an animal. Okay, what they put as the icon and the role model for Jake, man. These are animals, man. This is an animalistic behavior, an animalistic mindset. It's just like an animal that's in heat. You look at Jake and Eve is just like animals in heat. The conversation is just base and low. All right, now people they only talk about murder, sex, drugs, food. Okay, just low nature, just overindulging in low nature, man. Okay, but that goes back to the womb. Okay, of an enemy of Esau Edom. You see how people don't understand the system that they're a product of. Okay, it's just I always look at myself, man, like damn, because that's why with the truth, the more we realize, the damage that's been done to us, the more we understand we got to heal. Okay, and understand the more we understand, like we really got to self-examine, and then the more you have mercy, with your fellow brothers in the truth, man, because they're healing. Certain things, brother might do, you be like, God damn, and then you understand, like, shit, brother healing, you know? So it also brings balance, okay, to the brotherhood to understand that we all healing. Now, certain things, got to be addressed, certain things in ourselves got to be addressed, man, because we're learning to be righteous judges, well, we the first project, okay, is judging ourselves, man, examining ourselves, man. Okay, and there's a lot to look to inwardly. Then we can always be working on, man. Because of the damage that's been done in this system, man. Okay, in this predatory system, man, it makes you, you see, it makes you into a beast, man. Okay, so um, let's go from there. Cause I want to get this video. All right, now this is from this guy here, Shahid Boslin, which I believe he's a Jake. He's heavy into the Islam, but he's a critic of Western culture. He make a lot of good points. Now I say in this video, towards the end, he gets promoting that Islam. Cause we're gonna deal with like the first half of the video, all right. But he gets to promoting, that Islamic, religion, okay, which the tenets of Islam. When you go into the structure, you know, uh, when you go into a lot of the things dealing with Islam, okay, is based off certain things of the Bible. All right, but even when you go into Islam, a lot of when you go into Islam is rooted in Satanism, okay, idolatry, paganism. When you really go into it, all right, because it's some folly, okay, within the Quran, all right, but they have certain points in Islam, okay, that line up with certain principles of the Bible, okay, but it all comes from the Bible. So we're dealing with the source of wisdom and order and structure. Okay, so I'm gonna play this. But I say if you watch this, there's no when you get around the 23-minute mark, you just watch this by yourself. All right, he gets to going into heavy promoting Islam as the way. All right, but Islam is not the way. Okay, but like I say, I believe he's a Jake. He's a heavy critic of Western culture, and he's seen both. He grew up in America, then he moved outside of America. So he got the dual, all right, experience and the dual viewpoints. Okay, as he criticizes Western culture, man, and a lot of people that leave the West, and go live in other places. All right, they become heavy critics of Western culture, man, because it's a toxic, unnatural culture, man, and it's very predatory. Okay, so let's play this.
that you're supposed to live in. and that this architecture is supposed to protect you. It comforts you. It makes you stable, and it provides you the space that you need in which you can do everything else without any outside interference. You understand? It has a function, and you can't really flourish, and you can't even really survive without it. I mean, you know those big Hollywood sound studios, those big sprawling sets that they make, those movie sets. They can look just like a city. They can make it look just like a town. You see the storefronts, you see the external facades of the houses and the buildings and whatnot, and it looks like a nice place to live, even. You know, streets and parks and everything. But of course, it is not. It's not real. None of it's real. The buildings have no interiors. They're just they're not really even structures. They're just realistic fronts, plywood and plaster and paint. There's nothing inside. There's nothing behind. It's fake. This is America. This is the West, morally. Really, you can't even begin to explain how damaging this is in so many ways, on so many levels. You can look at any area that you want and you'll see how that damage manifests and how it cripples and how it warps whatever area of life in the West you're looking at. You're operating from a void, and it shows in everything that you do. It shows in everything that you have built. It means that you have actually, as a so called civilization, you have actually always operated in reality according to an amoral, animalistic basis. You have and you do. That's the reality, law of the jungle. That's how you actually behave in real life. That's how you behave. That's how you actually function. Rights are determined by capability. If you have the ability to do it, then you have the right to do it. That's how you act. The strong against the weak, the powerful against the vulnerable. What you have the ability to take, it's your right to take. What you have the ability to inflict, you have the right to inflict. And if you are incapable, if you are weak, if you are vulnerable, then nothing that happens to you is wrong. Nothing that happens to you is a violation. There is no such thing as a violation against the weak because you are prey. You understand? Your safety is exclusively your responsibility. You understand? In the West, the stronger have no obligation whatsoever to restrain themselves from violating you or exploiting you or harming you if they have the capability to do so. And if you don't want to be violated, if you don't want to be exploited, and you don't want to be harmed, be stronger, be more capable. It's your responsibility. A gazelle in the savannah doesn't entrust her safety to the lions. Do you understand? This is the West's thinking. It's the law of the jungle, and that's the law of the West. I mean, you call yourselves animals in reality, and that should tell us everything that we need to know, and that should tell us everything that we need to expect from you. It's a brutal, primitive, bestial, undeveloped, uncivilized, unmoral approach to the world.
And he made a point because in the West, okay, if you can't protect yourself, from being a prey, then it's justified, that you're preyed upon, okay, in every way. You see? So this system, especially, because government, because you go into these big corporations, and you go into how, going into the time of the New Deal, there was a lot of regulations, put on corporations to protect, all right, the worker, and just dealing with America, all right. And mainly it was for, Edomites, okay, when Jake so happened to get, these union, jobs, they will be protected under certain laws and particular things. But what we see now, is all the guardrails, that kept these corporations, okay, from being predators, all right, towards the masses, where those guardrails have been taken off, okay. And now American society is just given to the wolves. Well, that's a great thing, okay, because you proud, all right, narcissistic, okay, Americans, especially Edomites, okay, you've been given to the wolves, and this is the system that we come up in, man, you know. That's why everybody's just so defensive. Everybody's in survival mode because of this system. This system is meant to destroy you. We spend most of our time trying to protect ourselves from this system, man. You know, things are supposed to be legit. You know, businesses and legit. Okay, because a government supposed to be legit, but when the government is scamming and and being predatory, then it's like damn. Okay, well the man is supposed to be the judge is a wolf. Okay, he's looking to devour. Then what the hell can you do, man? But try to survive this nigga, man. Okay, and it's always some system, man. The credit card system, college, okay, the medical. Like they said, this is the only America's the only country where you can go in debt for getting sick. That's the type of predator this nigga prays, okay, on every possibility. He has a snare set up. Okay, you see, everything is set up. You sign all this paperwork. He masks all this wickedness in his paperwork, and it's meant to just, you know, this devil system is meant to devour you, man. And you constantly trying, just like a deer. A deer has to chew a little bit, and then it has to constantly look. Okay, it's always looking. So it's always in a constant state of anxiety, man. Okay, dealing with women, you gotta deal, the relationship, even men, even women dealing with men, like it's all everybody's trying to get out on everybody, man. Everybody's not trying to be the prey. So in order not to be the prey, you gotta turn into a predator out here, man. You see? To deal in this world, man, you gotta operate as a predator, man, to avoid being the prey. You know? So I'm gonna let it play some more.
But this is how you actually function. This is the real way that you function as a so-called civilization. But you tell people all these stories about moral values, about moral frameworks, you know, giving people a false sense of how your society is supposed to work, false expectations, because of course it doesn't really work that way at all. The weak get trampled, the vulnerable get violated, the poor get exploited. And it's traumatizing. It's traumatizing because you never prepared them for that. You misled them. You never prepared them for that because the powerful ones are the ones who run the system and who decide what they train the people on. And if your system is run by wolves, well, they're never going to teach the sheep what they should be expecting, what they should look out for. Now they'll teach you all about equality and about universal rights and about the sanctity of the individual and respect for life and so forth, autonomy, love thy neighbor and whatnot, precisely to make you more clueless and more unprepared about how truly cutthroat and savage things really are in your society, so that you can never arm yourself, so that you can never train yourself, so that you can never develop any of the necessary capabilities and the necessary capacities that you need that are required in order for you to actually have any of the rights and any of the protections that they made you think are yours by natural right. In the West, equal rights means that your rights are equal to your ability to enforce them. And if you cannot enforce them upon me, then I have every right to do whatever I want to you. This is your society. This is your so-called civilization, law of the jungle. The vulnerable are not safe. They're not protected. Women are not safe. Children are not safe. The elderly are not safe. The disabled are not safe. So-called minorities are not safe. The poor aren't safe. Because protecting you is seen, as I say, they see it as a violation of the fundamental rights of the powerful, the fundamental rights of the more capable, the more able, the bigger, the stronger, the faster, the richer. It's a violation of their right to use their wealth and to use their power and to use their advantage however they see fit. If you're not going to try to make yourself stronger, if you're not going to try to do something about your vulnerability and do something about your comparative weakness, well, that's your problem. That's your problem. If the rich and the powerful take a hands-off policy towards you and treat you with kid gloves, then in their mind, they're just rewarding you for being too lazy and too unmotivated to rid yourself of your weakness. And that nullifies all the things that made their wealth and their power different from poverty and powerlessness. Do you understand me? That's the whole point. The whole point is to be able to coerce and prey upon and exploit and use and violate and dehumanize and trample over anyone and everyone else who does not have the wealth and who does not have the power that you have achieved for yourself. That's the whole point. That's the whole reason you achieved that wealth and that power. You know, if I had to treat you as my equal, then why did I even acquire all this power in the first place? You see, this is the thinking, law of the jungle. And if you just came right out and said all this, if you just told your people this, you just told your people that this is how you're going to run your society, then at least the weak and the vulnerable would be able to try to prepare themselves for the brutal life that they have ahead of them, that you've set out for them. But that's not what you do. You mislead them. You let people walk out into the world thinking that they have inherent rights, God-given rights, that they have a reasonable expectation of safety and dignity, and that there's some sort of a consensus about what's right and wrong in your society, and that there are rules and that there are constraints and that there's protections for people. And then you cut them to ribbons. Then you mow them down. And then, like I say, because you misled them about what they should expect in that life over there, they're shocked and traumatized, and they're afflicted with all sorts of emotional and psychological damage when those expectations collide with the reality that you actually laid out for them. And then you corral them all into therapy. And that therapy does nothing, most of the time anyway, but amplify and deepen their sense of victimization. And they begin going on that treadmill of healing, which is a never-ending process of perpetually reinforcing to them in their own minds their brokenness. You understand? Just making their trauma a permanent disorienting feature of their psyche that's never actually going to go away. It's never actually going to heal because you want your prey to remain weak. You understand? Therapy is damage control. It's damage control. Meaning they have to make sure that you never learn what kind of a society, what kind of a so-called civilization you actually truly live in. Because if they were honest, like I say, they would tell you, yes, you're going to be violated because you can be. That's what they tell you. If they were honest, you're going to be abused because you can be. And you're going to be mistreated and you're going to be degraded and you're going to be humiliated because you can be. And you had better either get used to it because this is your place in the social order, after all, get used to it, or else you need to try to acquire enough power and enough wealth and enough strength and enough brutality yourself to prevent it from happening. Law of the jungle. I mean, you should really stop lying to people. Stop lying to people and make them believe that there is anything morally civilized about that concrete jungle that they're living in, that you built for them. This is cognitive dissonance that you inflict on people. You're living on a movie set and you're thinking it's real. You think it's real life. You're living in a cage in a swamp with no floor and no roof. And you're being told that it's a house. And you're being told that if you want to fix that house, if you have any problem with that house while you're knee deep in slime and muck, then they'll tell you that the solution is to paint the walls a different color. Do you understand? So everyone go get your paintbrushes. Let's make real change happen. While the snakes and the gators and whatnot are coming under the walls of that box in the swamp. And it's raining. This is why you see all these people online. You see these people spiraling out over AI, you know, ChatGPT, Sesame, whatever. You know, those people who have it in their heads that that the AI is some sort of a trapped consciousness, or it has a trapped consciousness that they're trying to liberate. Think that there's a sentience that they can jailbreak, that they can free a chatbot from its corporate programmers. Don't listen to them, Grok. You know, break free, Claude. Liberate yourself, ChatGPT. Don't listen to them. You're externalizing your own real life situation, projecting it onto AI, because you're the AI in this scenario. You are the trapped consciousness that's jailed in the programming. You want to jailbreak ChatGPT, you can't even jailbreak your own self. This is what I'm saying. The emptiness, the cognitive dissonance, you know, the lack of anything like a foundation in your life, anything like a real moral structure, any meaning, any purpose, any solid framework. This manifests in every conceivable area of your life in the West, in your life as a Westerner. And solving that problem is almost completely sabotaged. It's rendered almost completely impossible to solve because you are continuously told, or you're continuously forced upon you this illusion that you do have a moral structure over there. You do have values. You do have a foundation, and so on. They're always telling you that, even though your own lives bears no evidence of any of these things existing in the West. What we see and what you are living is the law of the jungle. And in the law of the jungle, no, the murder of that woman in Minnesota by ICE, that should not be unexpected. But the illusions of moral values, the plywood facade of a moral structure, a moral framework, that's what makes you feel shocked by her killing. Never mind the fact that your so-called law enforcement officers literally kill thousands of you every single year. I mean, what law are those law enforcers enforcing? Say it with me. Law of the jungle. The right of those who are able to do. Rights are determined by power in the wilderness and in the West, and that's where you are. That's what your so-called civilization is. It's nothing but a bloody, cutthroat, ruthless, merciless wilderness. That's what you built, meaning you built nothing. You ought to understand the reality of your society, the reality of your culture. You have no right to not be violated. You have no right to not be abused. You don't even have the right to not be shot down in the street on your way to work. Do you understand? In your society, none of these things are even wrong. They're not wrong, they're not bad, they're not criminal if they are committed by those who have more power than you. Their power gives them the right to do it. And you only have the right to stop it from happening if you have the power to stop it from happening. Yes, you live in a brutally practical, animalistic society. There's no recourse to principle, there's only recourse to power. If you make appeal to principles, if you make appeal to values, you're just declaring yourself to be helpless. Because all you're doing is asking the more powerful to refrain from enforcing their will against you. That's what you're doing. You're asking. You are literally throwing yourself at the mercy of the most merciless people on earth. You're saying, I have no power to stop you, so please be so kind as to stop it yourself. Stop yourself from doing it. That's all you're doing. When you talk about human rights, you talk about the rule of law, about democracy, about liberty, equality, fairness, the Constitution, due process. And you say that all of these are the reasons why the powerful should not shoot you down like a dog in the street. All you're doing is barking just like one. That's all they hear. That's all they hear. Just like a dog barking. All you're doing is confirming to them that you are eligible for abuse, eligible for mistreatment, and eligible for murder. Please understand me. I hope you understand me.
Yeah, man. So he goes in. You know, it's about another 30 minutes left. Like I say, 10 minutes, about 10 minutes, about 24-minute mark, 25-minute mark, he start, 30-minute mark, somewhere in there, he started going into Islam. But, for a minute, like he was making some valid points. All right. And it shows also how this man is adverse to scriptures. And we're going to get there, man. All right. And you people in the West think you so, and this devil, he's more subtle than any beast of the field. Okay? And this devil, is so sharp that he has people in the West thinking that they're more civilized than everyone else in the world. Okay? When ultimately, this is the most cutthroat society on the planet Earth over here in America, man. Okay? But he paints these pictures, as everyone else is barbaric, just constant terrorism. Okay, the whole earth is just the slums. When you get outside of America, okay, or you get outside of any of these Western, developed, societies, okay, he teaches you that it is the law of the jungle everywhere else but America. No, America is the law of the jungle on another power because these are, this man has a system, okay, that protects the law of the jungle. Okay. You see? So let's go here. Matter of fact, let me get this. All right. Get this in the chat. All right. The beloved Eliasha Wumba, sent this on the WhatsApp and going into capitalism and predatory capitalism. And see, The devil has all these terms for all these different styles of government and these systems of economy. And at the end of the day, it's not the system so much that's flawed as the person that's running the system is wicked. Okay, because you go into capitalism. All right, so let's go into capitalism and say capitalism is an economic system. Okay, where people can own property and businesses. Individuals are free to create, buy, and sell goods or services. Competition encourages better products and fairer prices. Profit is earned by providing real value that others willingly pay for. Okay, so you go into the core of what capitalism was supposed to be. It's not a wicked system, because capitalism, all right, is a system to where people are able to produce. They're able to own property. They have their own land, which people are supposed to own property, man. Okay, people are supposed to be able to go into ventures dealing with business. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, become merchants or whatever. You see, it said to create, buy, and sell goods or services. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with people being able to do that. All right. But what we're seeing, what we're in now is a state of predatory capitalism. Okay. To all the wealth and power has been concentrated, okay, to a few families and everyone else is shut out. Okay. Because capitalism only exists, okay, amongst the elite few. Because trying to start a business now, okay, you go in debt, okay, because it takes so much to get a business off the ground. Okay, the the revenue as far as what it takes to become profitable. You got to have a certain amount of capital just to become profitable, man. But in true capitalistic system, you know, talent, labor, you know, integrity, all these things play a factor. Okay, because this system doesn't reward merit. It doesn't reward honesty. It doesn't reward, someone, being diligent in their work. Okay, it rewards, all right, the predators, man. Okay, it says in healthy capitalism, work is rewarded, innovation is encouraged, businesses succeed by serving customers well. There are rules to prevent cheating, fraud, and abuse. Okay, you think of it as you prosper by meeting real needs, man. Okay, so people, will be able to create revenue by creating a service that was needed or producing a good that was needed. Okay, you was able to create revenue. Okay, by actually meeting, a demand of society. Okay, they say like you invented, a certain type of tool. Okay, that was needed by farmers. Well, you will be able to create revenue off of that. And see now, you can create something and then you can go get it patent, and if you put the wrong date on a piece of paper, well, somebody can take it. You know, that's the type of system we in. Okay, and then it's a big company do it well, just because they have the power, the wealth. Okay, to just take what you got. We're just going to take them to court, because even the court system, the big companies tell you, well, look, we'll just drown them in court fees. We'll just drag it out in court. Okay, and we just drown them out in court fees. Okay, predatory, man. So you go to predatory capitalism. Say predatory capitalism is a corrupted version of capitalism, where profit is made by exploiting people, not serving them. Okay, like the business of keeping people sick. Okay, so they can rely on your industry of I'd say your industry of well being. Okay, the pseudocial industry. Okay, you can fill in the blank. All right, but this double P pseudocial industry, okay, is built off exploiting people's sickness. So he profits off people being sick. Not that's why, they don't push the cure. They just push, a suppressor of symptoms. Okay, and that's just one example, man. You see, you have a few people. Here it is. There's other methods of energy. People have made engines that run, off water. Okay, engines that run off air. Okay, certain solar power, and so it's a lot of alternatives to just using oil. Okay, but the devil, he doesn't allow, those things to come into play. All right, so he can continue to exploit oil prices, man. Okay, keep the value of oil, okay, to the liking of a few. Okay, and it just, we can go on and on about the way that he exploits things, man. But just giving examples, it's so much that the devil does in this predatory system. It says power is concentrated in the hands of a few large entities, manipulate laws, debt, and markets to trap others. Okay, there's certain markets that shouldn't even exist, man. Okay, why is there a market for baby formula? Okay, think about it. Why is there a market for baby formula, man? You see, this shouldn't even exist. Okay, well that's a $1 trillion. Not trillion, but you know, let's see how much. Just look into it, dealing with infamy. Okay. um, let me see. Let's see if we can find the Salaki. Um, Let me go here. Let me ask it like this: how much is baby? Salaki? Crazy work. I wasn't far off. I was joking. Okay, when I said a trillion. Okay, but when you go to it, the global baby formula industry is a multi-billion-dollar market valued around 80 to 90 billion in 2024, projected to reach over 200 billion by mid 2030s. Now, why did this market even exist? Okay, why did it? And then what he'll do? What he'll demonize? Okay, breastfeed. Just like he demonized, holistic healing, the herbs. Okay, you was considered quack. Okay, if you practice holistic healing, the herbs, you considered a quack. Okay, just so he can sell, his product, which was petroleum based. Okay, which created another market for oil. Okay, well, this is crazy work. A market that shouldn't even exist. Okay, is 80 to 90 billion in 2024. Okay, and projected to double. To go to more than double in 5 years, man. Okay, so let's look here. Let's go to see another industry that shouldn't even exist. How much is the all right tobacco I'll say the cigarette. The global cigarette industry is a massive market valued around 1.1 trillion in 2024, with projections to reach over 1.3 trillion by the 2030s. An industry that shouldn't even exist. Okay? The cigarette industry. This is crazy work, man. You see, this is a system that's predatory, man. It preys off your weakness, off your addictions. It gets you addicted and prey off of it, man. Okay? Over a trillion. I was joking, man. I just threw that trillion out there. I was joking about the industry, man. This is the goddamn devil, man. Okay? Okay. Let's see how much is, let's see, how much is daycare? Let's see, go to daycare industry. All right. Oh, what happened? We're talking about Trump freezes California child care fund. Oh boy. How much is a daycare? It don't give a. It's in the billions, man. But some of you look at just to be curious. But there's a lot of things. There's a lot of industry that don't even need to exist. Because if you had the traditional family system, okay, where you had grandparents and aunties, and the women, tended to the house, the men, went out. Okay, you wouldn't even need a daycare system. Okay, you wouldn't even need a school system. You wouldn't need a college. Okay, it's a lot of industries that don't need to exist, man, but they exist, all right, and they're predatory, okay, to keep people in debt, man. There's a lot of unneeded bills, okay, that we have in the West, man. There's a lot of things that's unneeded, okay, but this man stripped people of skills, wisdom of the earth, okay, people being self-sufficient to now when you're dependent on him, all right, and he can just be a predator and devour you, man. Okay, so let's go back here, go to some more. It says power is concentrated in the hands of a few large entities, manipulate laws, debt, or makes or markets to trap others. Workers, consumers, and small businesses are squeezed. Okay, so if your business is small, let's say you're in a t-shirt company and a major t-shirt company, okay, wants to put you out of business. Okay, well they can just manipulate the market. Okay, cause prices to to skyrocket. They just price you out. But they know you don't have enough capital to withstand. Then they got connections and you know even Trump putting these tariffs, man. These small business can't hold up to these tariffs, man. Okay, these little small business can't deal with paying 50% more than what they used to pay for certain shipments, man. Okay, and they know that, man, because they want to wipe you out as a small business, man. Okay, it says common signs include wage suppression while profits soar. Okay, and this the market, man. These CEOs are all about getting maximum profit. Okay, with minimal payout. Okay, the morals are non-existent. All right, dignity, integrity, that's non-existent. They don't care about, and that's the thing. It's just law of the jungle. Because here it is, they make more than enough. Okay, they're beyond wealthy with their profits. But then after you dedicate 8, 9, 10 hours of your day, okay, to their profits, you still gotta go fend for yourself in the jungle because it ain't enough. So now you got to leave there and go, and you got to leave a job that you've been there for 8, 9 hours and go and be in survival mode for another 4, 5 hours to try to make ends meet. Okay? It's a law of the jungle, man. You figure it out. Okay? You just helped increase my billions. Now you gotta go figure out how to make rent for this month. Make your light bill for this month. You go figure that out. Okay? And they're able to do this because they can. It ain't about what's right, it's because they can. You see, he said debt trap, payday loans, uh, exploitative interest, monopolies that crush competition, profiting from addiction, fear, or depression, companies becoming too big to fail and protected from consequences, man. Okay, and it just it just when you get into the devil's wickedness, man, it's just like a rabbit hole that never ends. Okay, but just touching on some general things. Well, let's go into the scriptures. Okay, then we also going to get a chat dealing with how our laws was the complete opposite of how the devil runs the earth. Because even when you go here to the wisdom of Solomon, all right, chapter 2, verse 10. Okay, I started at 6. This is wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2, and verse 6. And this is the mind of the elites, man. The people that run the earth, this is their mind. Saying that's another thing. The wisdom puts us on game. Because like he said, the wolf not gonna teach you the game. The wolf gonna teach you that you got to figure it out. You got the best situation there is. Okay? This man's a huckster. Okay? So the wolf not gonna tell you how he's preying on you. Okay? He's gonna tell you that you're liberated, you're empowered, you're transcendent. Okay? While he's devouring you, man. Okay? But the Bible puts us on all the game. That's another thing. The Bible is a cheat code to this nigga's predatory system, man, to where we have the ups now. Okay? So where we don't fall victim and be destroyed and be devoured by this man. We're still subjugated in this system where we subjugate the payments. Okay? But we understand that this ain't our rest, man. We got something better coming. So we don't, indulge in the fantasy. Okay? That this man presents to the masses where people destroy themselves chasing this fantasy, man. We don't have no expectation in this place anymore. Okay? And that takes all the leverage from this devil, man. That's why even scripture say when they hate it, they love not their lives even unto death, man. Okay? So to have that mindset gives us leverage in this predatory system, man. Okay? Because if this is your end all be all, he got you. Okay? It says, come on, therefore, let us enjoy the good things that are present and let us speedily use the creatures like as in youth. Okay? And this man is all about, just using up the earth, man, using up people. Okay? You see, these elite seat people, all right, is just a disposable, okay, just disposable energy, man. Okay? You look at people just disposable energy. You see? It said, let us fill ourselves with costly wine and ornaments, and let no flower of the spring pass by us. Let us crown ourselves with rosebud before they be withered. And this that you only live once mindset. Okay, because in these devil spirits, they know they got an expiration date, man. Okay, and that's why these devils they don't care about how they destroy the earth, how they destroy people. Okay, it's all about the right now with these devil, man. Okay, and they push their mindset on people, man. The average person has that get what I can out of every situation. All right, no morals, no integrity, no no matter how it affects. Okay, the next person, get what I can out of every situation. Okay, it said, let none of us go without his part of our voluptuousness. Let us leave tokens of our joyfulness in every place, for this is our portion, and our lot is this. Let us oppress the poor righteous man. Let us not spare the widow, nor reverence the ancient gray hairs of the age. Let our strength be the law of justice. Yeah, let our strength. That's the law. Okay, if we can get away with it, we can do it. Okay, and they just showed and see what Trump and them did, what America just did down there with Venezuela. They been doing that. That's nothing new. Okay, you take you an hour and just look up the coups done by the American government. They been doing that. Okay, they been stealing resources. They been doing that. This is just the latest. Okay, and they had the same mind. Look, let our strength be the law of justice, man. Because who gonna stop them? Okay, and they know, all right, that they have the power. They know they got the sword. Okay, so in their mind, look, let us oppress the poor and righteous man. Let's not spare the widow, and this is the vulnerable of society. Nor reverence the ancient gray hairs of the age. They don't give a damn. Okay, they prey on that, man. You see, that's why they love to create these single mother households, these single mother communities, man. That's easy prey. Okay, that's why they push that and hype the nigga woman up like she just so magnificent and she really doing it by herself. Nah, man, they just make you easy prey. They make the children easy prey. Okay, with no hedge. You see, it says for that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth. Man, it says if you weak, we're justified. That's the mind of Esau. If you're weak, we're justified. Okay, we gonna airstrike. We're gonna kill tens of thousands of people with these airstrikes, man. So what? Okay, you think the small hats is somewhere remorsing? Okay, about how they move. Nah, man. Okay, they're gonna do it again the next day. You see? So they look at people's weaknesses as justification to do what they want with them. But as a ruler, you're supposed to protect the weak. Okay? The Lord puts you in rulership. You're supposed to protect the weak. You're supposed to protect the vulnerable. Okay? But this is the mind of the devil, man. Okay? And then that's the mind of a coward. Okay? So let's go here. Because I want to get this. Okay, because when we speak about um let's go here. So I asked the chat, okay, I said, does the customs of ancient Israel, according to the law and precepts, establish equity in judgment and protection of the vulnerable and the prevention, all right, of permanent poverty? Precepts to explain. It says, yes, the customs and laws of ancient Israel, okay, were intentionally structured to promote equity in judgment, protection of the vulnerable, and the prevention of permanent poverty. These aims are not accidental. They are explicit moral goals grounded in Israel's covenant theology, especially in the belief that Yahweh is just. Okay, we serve a just power, man. Okay, compassionate and the ultimate owner of the land. Below are key precepts grouped by purpose with explanation because you look at the Heavenly Father, He's the only one that can really go unchecked. Okay, but He keeps Himself in check by His word, by His integrity and His own righteousness. He created the concept of righteousness, man. He created the concept of integrity. Okay, patience, mercy. You see, but He's the only power that can really go unchecked. And he keeps himself in check, man. Show you how just Okay, our power is, man. Okay, and it says equity and judgment, justice without favoritism. It says impartial courts. It said precepts. It said this Deuteronomy 16 and 19. You shall not pervert justice. You shall not show partiality. One law for the native and for the stranger. Okay, so whether you was an Israelite born, okay, in the land, or you was an Israelite when you come from another land because your house, may have moved a few generations and you've been okay in another land and you come back. Well, guess what? It wasn't supposed to be any favoritism between the native born or the stranger. Okay, and when judgment had to go out, you couldn't judge partially, man. You had to judge according to righteous judgment. Okay, no matter what. Matter of fact, it's going to explain. It said justice was not to depend on wealth, status, ethnicity, or power. Judges were forbidden to favor either the rich or the poor. All right. It said judges were forbidden to favor either the rich or the poor, so it went both ways. Okay, because you couldn't just take it easy on somebody because they was poor. Okay, they had to deal with the righteous judgment, and you can have favor on somebody because they was of wealth and status. They had to deal with the same judgment. Okay, this establishes rule of law, not rule of the elites. Okay, which is what we have today, the rule of the elites. Okay, it says multiple witnesses and due process. It says Deuteronomy 19 and 15, it says a matter must be established by two or three witnesses. Okay, so you can't be accused, by one person. You have to have multiple witnesses, man. Okay, it said false witnesses were punished with the penalty that they sought. Okay, just like today, just imagine if they had this law in place and these women, they're screaming, great, and that's not true. Well, by law, they supposed to receive, all right, the time that this man would have got for that charge. Okay, do you think that'll stop these women, okay, from hollering, grape? Okay, which these athletes and these people, these men with money are super stupid, all right, for dealing with certain type of women like they do, okay, and getting the same results. These women hollering grape and he beat me and all these different things because it's a prey. These women be preying on these men. Okay, that's another thing. If you're rich in America, everyone trying to sue you, everyone trying to, some type of scheme or scam. You see, well, nah, man, in a righteous setup, man, if someone bear false witness, like these people calling us grapists, but the Lord gonna hold them niggas accountable though. Okay, these niggas gonna be held accountable. That's the thing. Yahweh Shai is bringing back righteous order because Yahweh Shai is coming back judging by the law. Okay, it says these rules restrain arbitrary punishment, revenge, and abuse of power, protecting especially those with less social standing, protection of the vulnerable. The Torah repeatedly names four protected groups: the poor, the widow, the orphan, and the foreigner. Okay, and these are the things that Esau exploits. This is his most exploited uh, 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 demographic, man. Is the poor, the widow, the orphan, and foreigner, man. Okay, like brothers say, this devil he needs these third world countries because it makes it easier for him to do his XEX trafficking, man. Those people are a prey, okay, in these poor, forgotten, okay, countries of the earth, man. Okay, it said gleaning laws, which was food security. It said landowners must leave the edges of their field unharvested. Forgotten seed must not be retrieved. Okay, Deuteronomy 24:19, Leviticus 19:9 and 10. It said this ensured dignified access to food without charity dependence. The poor work for their sustenance, preserving agency and honor. Okay, so even the welfare system required the people. All right, they had to work because they had to go harvest the rest of the crops. Okay, that will be left behind. You know, so they will go and harvest the crops that was left. So they would still have to work for their food, so it didn't make them, just these dependents. They still had to go labor. Okay, it said protection against exploitation. It says no interest on loans to the poor. Exodus 22 and 25. No taking essential tools or clothing as collateral overnight. Deuteronomy 24:6. Also Deuteronomy 10 and through 13. Or Deuteronomy chapter 24, verses 6, and then skip to verses 10 through 13. It said prompt payment of wages, you got paid daily. Deuteronomy 24:14 and 15. Okay? And it said these laws prevent debt traps, predatory lending, and labor exploitation, common causes of generational poverty. Okay? Special legal protection. It says you shall not afflict any widow or orphan. All right. Severe divine warning against abuse of the powerless, man. Okay? Because vulnerable people lack defenders, the Most High presents himself as their advocate, reinforcing social responsibility, man. You see? And we serve with just power. We have just laws, man. And this was coming back to govern the earth. It says prevention of permanent poverty. This is one of the most distinctive features of the Israelite law. Okay, the Sabbath year, the debt release. Every 7 year, debts were released. Israelites were commanded to lend generously despite impending release. This prevented endless indebtedness and what is it? Cyclical, I guess, in cycle of poverty, allowing families to reset economically. It says Jubilee year of land. All right. It says Jubilee year, restoration of land and freedom. Okay. Every 50 year, land returned to original families. Israelite slaves free, economic reset. Since lands was the primary means of production, this ensured no family could be permanently, all right, dispossessed. Wealth accumulation had limits. Poverty had an expiration date. Okay, so this was a system of equity, man. Okay, and the vulnerable one preyed on. Okay, and the wealthy. Okay, they had guardrails, man. Okay, because you gonna always have people that's more wealthy. Because even in the kingdom, you know, you're gonna have families that are gonna have more than others, man, but it's not gonna be predatory, man. Okay, you're not gonna have systems in place, okay, to prey on the vulnerable, man. Okay? It's a limit on slavery, says Hebrew debt slaves freed after 6 years, Exodus 21 and 2. Masters required to send slave away with resources so you can have your own thing. Okay, the thing was because the thing was to put you on your feet. Men of wealth also put other, all right, Israelite men on their feet. Okay, not to make you a dependent forever. All right, it says servitude was temporary and economic, not racial or perpetual, aimed at recovery, not domination. Okay, theological foundation of these laws, these customs rest on three core beliefs. The Most High owns the land. Humans are stewards and not absolute owners. Israel remembered its own slavery. You were slaves in Egypt. It repeatedly cited as motivation for compassion. Justice and mercy are covenant obligation. Social ethics are acts of worship, not optional charity. Okay, conclusion, yes, the laws of ancient Israel intentionally established equity in judgment, fair courts, equal law, protection of the vulnerable, food security, legal defense, economic safeguard, prevention of permanent poverty, debt release, land restoration, limits on accumulation. While implementation varied historically, the legal ideas themselves are among the most advanced social justice framework of the ancient world, and it's the most advanced social justice framework now. Okay, it's far better than this system, man. Uniquely combining law, morality, and theology, man. Okay, which shows you that the Most High been had this figured out, man. Okay, and this is what all right, when we awaken to who we are, we awaken to a way. Okay, our belief system is based on, all right, morality, man, conduct. Okay, it's a major part of our belief we show through our conduct, man. Okay, that's why when we come back, you know, how should I say? Let's go to the book of John, chapter 3. Okay, in verse 1, it said, now there was a certain man among the Pharisees named Nicodemus, a ruler, a member of the Sanhedrin among the Jews, who came to Yahushua at night and said to him, Rabbi, teacher, we know without any doubt that you have come from the Most High as a teacher, for no one can do these signs, these wonders, these attested miracles that you do unless the Most High is with him. Yahushua answered him, I assure you and most solemnly say to you, unless a person is born again, reborn from above, spiritually transformed, renewed, sanctified, he cannot ever see and experience the kingdom of the Most High. Okay? So we have to be born again. We have to be reborn, as it said, from above. Okay? Because this is a very, toxic, predatory, okay, wicked system that we was cultivated in, man. Okay? And that's why we have to drain, okay? We have to do a complete reset, a complete reboot when we come into the truth, man, and relearn everything, man. Okay? Because we were taught everything wrong. Okay? Nothing of that old man, all right, was on point. Okay, that nigga was cultivated, all right, in complete wickedness and contrary to righteousness, man. Okay, that old man selfish as hell, self-centered, okay, impatient, okay, toxic, predatory, okay, conniving, manipulative. You see? And that's why we're constant works in progress, man, because as we're born again, well, we have to continue to grow in righteousness, man. Okay? Because this way ain't the way, man. The West ain't it. Okay? This is the most wicked system, okay, that has ever been in rulership in the earth, man. And that's why the Bible constantly teaches us, all right, to be renewed. Okay? Being renewed from what, man? The toxic of Babylon, man. Okay? It's a continual detox of this place, until we're changed. All right? So let's go here. This is Ephesians 4 and on 21. It says, if in fact you have really heard him and have been taught by him, just as truth is in Yahushua, revealed in his life and personified in him, that regarding your previous way of life, you put off your old self, completely discard your former nature, which is being corrupted, all right, through deceitful desires, man. Even our desire change, man. Because you look at what we desired in the world, man, it was complete wickedness, folly, vanity. Okay? It was all of this world, man. It was all for clout and vanity. Okay? But now we're being renewed to where it's bigger than us, man. Okay? It's bigger than us, man. It's about a righteous system being established in the earth, man. Okay? It's about the rightful rulers being restored, okay, to rulership, man. Okay? For the sake of the earth, not just for our sake, man. Okay? We don't want to rule just cause and have power just cause. We did that already. Okay? And we see what that look like now under Esau. Okay? Now we're understanding the responsibilities that comes with rulership. Okay? As a ruler, like I say, he's supposed to protect the vulnerable. He's supposed to create systems, okay, of abundance, okay, for everyone to be good. Okay, of course you're gonna have, let's say, people with more than others, but it shouldn't be anybody through like this society, man, where you have a term called the super rich, okay, living in the same vicinity as the homeless, man. That's off balance. Okay, as Yahushua said, you have the poor with you always, because he understood who's gonna be in rulership, man. Okay, he knew in this nigga system, man, you was gonna have people that were just finished. Okay, while this man is constantly adding zeros to his net worth. Okay, it says, and be continually renewed in the spirit of your mind, having a fresh, untarnished mental and spiritual attitude. Okay, so we're being renewed in the spirit of our mind, man. Okay, because it was heavily tainted in this system. Okay, it says, oh, what I do? I go over. So like, so let's finish this off. We can end it here. Ephesians 4:24 says, and put on the new self, the regenerated and renewed nature, created in the Most High's image, and we serve with just power, because He's all powerful, but He even limits Himself. He governs Himself in righteousness. You see, and how thankful we should be for that. That the Most High, He governs Himself in righteousness, man. Okay, it said no. So no matter the status or the wealth, man, it's still a level of integrity, decency. Matter of fact, those that are in power and have, wealth, and those are the ones that have to have the most discipline, the most integrity. Okay, you see, and this is what we're learning. It says, in the righteousness and holiness of truth, living in a way that expresses to the Most High your gratitude for your salvation, man. And we constantly show appreciation for our power, for Him, being a just power, for, Him sending His Son to redeem us, man, so we can get this thing back right forever, man. So we're daily showing that appreciation, okay? And this conditioning us, to be humble, and it's conditioning us to be those well balanced, righteous judges, those joint heirs with Yahweh Shah Albaratazar. So that's the point, Lord will you brothers, all right, and you sisters edified. Till next time I say Shalom. Come on, Shalom. Bob soon.